When it comes to designing an island, there is one surefire way that you can make your island more unique even within a generic theme, and that's by using custom codes. Although they aren't compulsory for decorating an island, a lot of creators use them to make their island stand out, but finding the right codes for your island can be rather difficult. Where do you look for the best custom codes? How can you make sure that you like everything you're finding? Will they look good together when you do start decorating? Let's talk about how you can find the best custom codes for your island and how you can check they fit back into your island vibes. So where do you start with looking for custom codes to use in decorating? I would always recommend beginning by taking a look at your mood board. Although it isn't essential to have one to make an island, I find that it helps me out a lot when it comes to finding custom codes. From your mood board, you should have a direction on your theme and colour scheme, and it's these two things which you need more than anything else to pick the right designs for your island. When you know the sorts of styles you want to go for on your island, it makes it so much easier to know what it is you're actually looking for. But if you are less sure, you can always look up something like cottagecore custom codes to get some ideas on the sorts of colours and styles you want to look for. With your theme and colour scheme in mind, now you want to think about the sort of codes you're going to need to decorate your island. What you end up needing is going to depend on the sort of island you're looking to put together and how you intend to use the custom codes. For decorating, you're mostly going to be looking for two types: path codes and codes that you can use to customize items. Looking for custom code pathing is where I would recommend starting, as it's going to be the foundation of your overall island design and it will use a lot of your available design slots. Most of the simple custom code paths which have rounded edges come with at least 9 individual pieces, but there may be more than that in the paths that give you additional details, which is why you should look for your path first. Look for one main path code to use as you start working on your island. You can add more in later if you have extra spaces. To give you a rough guide, some of the islands I've designed have used 3 different custom path codes, and if you do the maths on how many design slots that takes, it can be up to half of your available spaces depending on the paths you go for. Outside of pathing, you're going to want to think about the builds you're planning and what codes you may want to customize some of the items you're planning on using in those builds. This is going to largely depend on your theme and what you're planning on making, but 2 of the most common items you'll see in decorating are simple panels and stools. Both of these items use one custom code on a full-size scale, so you're going to want to look for codes which properly fill the space they take up and add the additional level of detail that you want. For stools, it's quite common to find custom codes which have a smaller set of rounded edges. These codes are great because, unlike the patterns you get from Sable, they fold over the edges and hide the roof completely, giving them a softer look which is more natural than using Sable's patterns. For simple panels, you will need to be a bit more selective about the codes you use, as the larger ones will show your pattern twice. As a result, if you want a custom code to fit more seamlessly onto these, you'll need to find a code which can repeat well vertically, or look for a second code which you can use on a shorter version of this item to hide the repeating code that you don't want displayed. Outside of those, you may want to look at some pro designs to use in decorating. These custom patterns are mostly in the form of items of clothing or standees and have been designed to look like items even if they aren't. For example, if you've seen a wooden crate filled with fruit and wondered how the designer got that item, it's actually a pro design on an umbrella. These sorts of custom codes are great for adding extra details into a build, and placing some of these down in your island can make your island stand out that little bit more than just using a customized item on its own. The great thing about using pro designs as items is that they don't take up your main custom code design slots, so you can find quite a few of these to use on your island without it affecting how many codes you can find altogether. When you have a list of what you're looking for in custom codes, it's time to start trying to find patterns which match what you had in mind for designing your island. There are a lot of different places to look for codes, and I would recommend using more than one source if you want to try to find some interesting codes which are similar to what you were planning on using. Personally, I would start with Google to find codes because it contains references from all over the internet. Custom codes that you find have often been tagged with some of the words you may be searching for, like your theme and colour scheme, so people can more easily find the right thing for what they're looking for. When you go into Google Image Search, you want to search for roughly what you have in mind for your custom codes. And as you start looking through the results, if you aren't seeing exactly what you want, you can change this up so that it goes back into what you were originally thinking. When you find something which is close to what you want, even if it's not exactly the same as you expect, open the image to see it in a larger format. If it looks perfect, check to see if there's an MA or an MO code on the screen. If there is, you can make a note of this, but if there isn't, click on the link below the image to open up the actual source of the photo. You may find the creator codes and the source of the image are either written in the comments of the photo or shared within an article where creator credits are given. If the image you found isn't quite what you had in mind, scroll through the recommendations just below this to see if there's something else which is closer to what you want. If I'm struggling to find exactly what I'm looking for, this is how I tend to look for images. I just keep going back and forth between recommendations until I can find something I like. However, if you aren't getting exactly what you want, back out of Google Images and refine what you've searched for to get some different images. Another place to look for custom codes is Pinterest. I tend to find more options for codes on Pinterest, but I don't get all of my codes from here. But you can adopt the same searching principle as I used for Google. Search for what you like and flick through the results. If you see something you like, check for an MA or MO code and make a note of this or screenshot it so you can find it later. You also have the option to search for custom codes in the design portal. All you need to do is go into the search section and enter what it is you're looking for to get a bunch of results. Although it's great we have this in New Horizons, I find that I don't use the custom code portal to search for custom codes directly because the codes need to be named exactly what you've searched for. A lot of players don't speak English as a first language, so they will save codes in a language that is right for them. And as a result, you may find that you're missing out on some really cute codes which will match your theme. If you want more choice and more options to flick through, you may find it easier to stick to Google and social media to be more precise in the custom codes you're looking for. Once you've found some custom codes you like that you think are going to work, now you want to get them all into your custom design app to use on your island. There are two different ways that you can search for these. You can either enter the design code or the creator code, otherwise known as MA and MO codes. MO codes are for the designs themselves and the MA code is your creator code. Which one you use is going to depend on what it is you want. If you're looking for a path code, you'll typically want to search for the creator code because you'll be able to see all of the pieces of the path in one go. But if there is only one design you want to use, you can search for just the design code rather than the creator code. You can either connect to the Custom Designs portal through your Nook phone or in the Able Sisters shop, and you'll see a few different options on the screen. The search by creator ID is where you enter your MA codes, and the search by design ID is where you will enter MO codes. When you open a code on the screen, you'll see the creator code on the left and the design ID on the right. When you find a code that you know you want to use, I would recommend favoriting the creator by pressing X on this screen so that you can easily find them later. All you then need to do is press save to put the design into an empty slot to use for decorating. When you have all of the codes you want to use in your Nook phone, you can now make sure the codes work together. There are a lot of different ways to do this, and a lot of creators just paste all of the custom codes they want to use on the ground and check all the codes side by side to see if they work together. But what I like to do is to make a mood board build on my island. Take one of the build ideas you had from your island plan and make this for your island. Use all of the key items that you know you're going to want to use around your island and use as many of the custom codes you've found to make the build come to life. Not only is this a great way to check all of the codes go together, it's also a really helpful way to make progress in designing your island. It doesn't need to be a big build that you work on either. There are plenty of small builds that you can quickly put together to check a couple of items and the codes you want to use all in one go. Having a starting point in your island design is a great way to see how your theme is going to come together without fully committing to a new island just yet. If you're someone who struggles with motivation when you see an empty island, Having something complete is a good reminder of what you can achieve when you work on your island just a little bit. Designing an island is a lot of fun in New Horizons, and with a bunch of custom codes ready to use, you will be well primed to work on creating an amazing island. With everything in place to create a stunning island, you're ready to get stuck into decorating. And if you want to make your island a success the first time without making some common decorating mistakes, watch this video next where I went through some decorating tips I wish I'd known sooner when putting islands together. And I'll see you over there.